Hello, my name is Brooke Michael, and I'm one of the advisors here at the University of Michigan-Flint. And today we're going to talk about our online RN to DNP with MSN program. So let's start off with how does this program work? So first off, this is for my high achieving associate's degree nurse. So you need to have a 3.5 GPA in your associate's degree in nursing program that wants to kind of skip the bachelor's degree and go straight into a nurse practitioner program. There are prerequisite courses that must be completed before you can start into the MSN or DNP graduate level curriculum. And we're going to talk about those on an upcoming slide. Once you're admitted into the program, you have up to 2 years to complete those prerequisite courses, or they can be completed in as little as 2 semesters. Again, you may not start into that MSN or DNP curriculum until you completed all of the prerequisite courses. And the main admission start date for the MSN and DNP curriculum is a fall term each year. So you would want to try and get those prerequisites done so that you would be able to start into a fall. Now, we do have a winter start into the MSN and DNP program, but there is no summer start into the MSN and DNP curriculum. There is a summer start into the prereqs though, so there we'll talk about a summer application. And again, when you're applying to start into the prereqs first. Every student is admitted like they're going on to the DNP. There's not a secondary application to get to the DNP, but you do have an opportunity to stop out at the MSN level and set for your nurse practitioner exam and be done with your education or continue on into that DNP curriculum. Once you completed, like I said, the MSN curriculum, then you can go on to the DNP or stop out at that point. So we do have a few different tracks for our RN to DNP with MSN program. They are all nurse practitioner exams tracks, so you will be able to set for your nurse practitioner exam in that specific area once you completed the curriculum for at least the MSN portion. So the different tracks we have are acute care gero, and this track does have some additional work requirement experiences we're going to go over in a future slide. Then we have gero primary, family nurse practitioner, neonatal nurse practitioner. Again, this track also has some work experience requirements before you can apply to that program. And then we have the psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner program. These are the undergraduate level prerequisite classes that must be completed before you start into the MSN and DNP curriculum. Now you'll see that some of those classes could potentially transfer in. So for example, a lot of my students transfer in English 112, which is just like a Comp 2 class from their either associate's degree in nursing program or potentially they took it somewhere else in the past. That can transfer in from a regionally accredited college or university within the United States. It does need to be a grade of a C or better. Then NSC 180, legal moral decision making in nursing and healthcare. There's about a dozen different community colleges within the state of Michigan that can transfer in from. So if you happen to be from one of those community colleges and took an equivalent to that, that could possibly have transferred in as well. The remaining classes do not traditionally transfer in unless you maybe started an RN to BSN program somewhere else, and then we would have to evaluate the syllabi to make sure that it's an exact equivalent. But most of the time, students are always taking those last 5 bullet point classes with us. Now, as I said before, we're going to go over this multiple times. You can do these in as little as 2 semesters, or it can take up to 2 years. It's up to you. Each of these classes are offered online every 7 weeks, so that gives you that opportunity to go at your own pace. The grade does need to be a B or better to continue on in the program. If you do not receive a B, you cannot go on to that graduate curriculum coursework. Now, these are our different sample curriculum guides. These are links and you will have access to this slideshow presentation. So you can look over these links. They're also on our website, so you can go to our website and find them as well. We do have a part-time track and a full-time track. Once you start into that graduate level curriculum, you will be following one of these tracks. Unlike the prerequisite classes where you can kind of go at your own pace, that is not the case once you start into graduate level curriculum. You are going to apply as a part-time student or a full-time student, and you're going to follow one of these tracks. Again, we have a fall start and a winter start, and this is what you will start into once you've completed all those prerequisite classes. So now let's talk about why choose the University of Michigan-Flint for your MSN and DNP program over another college or university. So we do have highly trained faculty that are still working in the field. They do try to be available to students outside regular business hours. They know that you may be working and you need that little bit of flexibility. We do have research opportunity with our faculty, so sometimes even our students end up publishing research with our faculty. It is a University of Michigan degree. I know that word Flint kind of throws people off. They're like, wait, is this actually the University of Michigan? It absolutely is. That comes with that reputation of a high quality education. That just goes along with this bullet point, which we are widely respected and known for our quality of graduates across the United States. And we are accredited by the CCNE, which is again is just that stamp of approval of a high quality program. Upon completion of your MSN, you are eligible to set for your respective nurse practitioner exam. And we do have an 86 to 100% test pass rate on the first attempt. The coursework is all completed online. So that's a nice benefit. There's not trips to Flint for your classes. So it's not like you have to be here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for a class or something like that. Your classes are completed online. And you do have clinical practicums in your area. So again, it's a nurse practitioner program. So there are clinicals. So you will have clinical courses, but they can be completed in your area. You don't have to come to Flint for those clinicals. So let's talk about some common questions that a lot of students have. When can I start? So students that are wanting to start on those prerequisite classes, those undergraduate level classes we talked about on that like second slide, you can admit any fall, winter, or summer. This is a big emphasis because I don't want you to do this wrong. So pay attention closely. You are going to pick the semester that you want to start into the prerequisite classes, not when you think you'll be done with those and are ready to start into graduate programs. If you're ready to start right away into those prerequisite classes, pick the next upcoming available date to start. Don't pick a future date when you think, oh, well, that's when I'll be done with those. No, the day you want to start taking classes with the University of Michigan-Flint in those prerequisite undergraduate level classes is the day you want to pick from the drop-down menu on your application. You will start into the MSN and DNP curriculum just after you get done with those prereqs. So there's not a timeline other than getting it done in less than 2 years. And there's not that many, so it should never take you that long. But, other than doing that, you don't have a specific start date into the MSN curriculum other than finishing up those prereqs. Is this a University of Michigan degree? Absolutely it is. It is signed by the same regents. You have it's the same diploma and you have the same alumni benefits. Do I need to take the GRE? Nope, we do not require the GRE. Will I get a BSN halfway through? No, you will not ever be able to be eligible for a bachelor's degree in nursing. So if you think that at any point you might need the BSN for a job or something like that, then you want to look at our RN to BSN program with maybe early assurance into MSN and DNP. That is going to be your better track than this one because you're never going to have an opportunity. A bachelor's degree has very specific requirements that are nationally regulated on many credits you have to have, general education, things like that. You don't meet those rules with this particular program. So if you think that you need a BSN, please look into our RN to BSN program instead. Otherwise, like I said, you won't get a BSN. There's not a stop out point and be like, I can get my BSN. There is for the MS and Master's in Nursing, but not for the BSN, bachelor's degree in nursing. Do I need to come to Flint during the prerequisite classes? No, you will never come to Flint. So those undergraduate level prerequisite classes, you don't need to come to Flint. But once you start into the MSN and DNP curriculum, you will come to Flint about 3 to 5 times a year. So keep that in mind. You need to have the ability to come to Flint. Can I go part-time? Yes, you're going to apply as either a part-time student or a full-time student when you apply in that application. How long does it take? So for the prerequisite classes, so those undergraduate classes, so from the day you start until the day you get done with the prerequisites, that's kind of up to you. Like I said, it can be done in as little as 2 semesters, or you can take up to 2 years. You can take time off as long as you don't take more than a year off. So there's a lot of flexibility. Now I'm going to go to how long does it take the day I start into graduate level MSN and DNP curriculum to the day I will graduate or set for my nurse practitioner exam. These timelines I'm about to go over are not included in the prerequisites because there's so much flexibility in the prerequisite classes that you can take them as fast or as slow as you want. We are not including those timelines. So this is from the day that you finished the prereqs and the day you started into graduate level curriculum. So from the day you start to graduate level curriculum to the day you finish your MSN, for a part-time student, it's 2 years and 8 months. For a full-time student, it's 1 year and 8 months. To get to the DNP is only 1 year beyond the MSN. So from the day you start into graduate level curriculum to the day you graduate with a DNP is 3 years and 8 months. See, 1 year past for a part-time student, and 2 years and 8 months, again, 1 year past the MSN. So it's only a year beyond from the MSN to the DNP. It's only 1 more year and you'll have your doctor of nurse practitioner. These time frames are for a fall start, so keep that in mind. Winter is our off-cycle start, so if you finish up those prereqs and are ready to start in a winter term, these time frames will be a little bit different, and you can look at that those different curriculum guides that you saw to see that little bit of a difference in starts. Can I work full-time during those prerequisites? Yes, because again, you can go as fast or slow as you want through those. But once you start into the MSN and DNP curriculum, it will depend if you're a full-time or a part-time student. Let me reemphasize this. There is not enough time in the week to work full-time and do our full-time curriculum. I know you just saw it say that full-time to the MSN was 1 year and 8 months, and you're like, yep, that's the one I want, quick, done fast, that's what I want to do. But those students are not working traditionally. If they are working, they're working less than part-time. There's just not enough hours in the week to do your clinicals in the MSN and DNP program and work full-time. So even working full-time and going to school part-time, or vice versa, going to school part-time and working full-time, those things will consume almost all of your time, even doing it that way. But again, not enough time to go full-time. We're not going to regulate it though. So like, we're not going to be like, how many hours are you working? But I'm just telling you that there is not enough time. How many classes do I take each semester during the prerequisites? Again, fast or slow as you want. A part-time student, once you start into the graduate level curriculum, is an average of 2 classes a semester, and a full-time student is an average of 4 classes a semester. The other thing you want to keep in mind, again, when you're looking at those curriculum guides, you're going to see this, but when you want to keep in mind is that for a part-time student, you will sometimes have summers off. Not every time, but there's 1 or 2 summers in there that you have off, depending on if you're a fall or winter start. And with the full-time students, that's year-round, no breaks. So keep that in mind as well. Can I take time off? Yep, during the prerequisite classes, sure you can, because again, we can go as fast or slow as you want. As long as you don't take more than a year off, you can keep going through the program. Once you start into the MSN and DNP curriculum, it is not recommended. That's because this program is cohorted, meaning that the information is building on itself. So you need some classes before you can take other classes because you need that information to succeed in the next class. So with that being said, some of our classes are only offered 1 time a year. So if you take a semester off, it could delay your graduation up to a year. So if you have a life emergency and you really need to take time off, yes, you can take that time off. Just know that it could delay your graduation up to a year. If you're just like, I need a break for a little bit, talk to your advisor and see if there's a semester that's going to be better to take off than another one, then maybe classes are being offered again, so it only delays your graduation by a half a year or so. Will you help with clinical placements? So here's the big kicker, and one of the reasons why people choose our program. Yes, we do. We have 3 clinical coordinators that will help you find clinical placement in your area. Now, we do let you know that you will need to take an active participation in that process. So we will help you find a placement, but you're going to have to make some phone calls, some emails, maybe get some documents signed, things like that. So you will work with our clinical coordinator closely to find a clinical placement in your area, but they will help you find something within 2 hours of your home. What if I live outside the state of Michigan? So if you live outside of the state of Michigan, you can still potentially do our program. That's not a problem with us, but there are a few states that are called no-go states. No-go states are states where that particular state has put regulations in place that make it almost impossible for you to take an out-of-state program. Now, we don't mind if you do it in a different state. We're happy to help you find clinical placement in that state, but that state does things where they put laws and rules in place so that outside programs programs like ours can't come into their state because they want to keep their tax dollars in their state colleges and universities. So they do things like making it so every single one of our faculty has to be licensed in that state. We can't mandate or require that our faculty are licensed in every state. So we just have to tell you, no, if you're in that state, we can't allow you to be in our program. So if you are out of state or think you may be moving out of state, please check our website to see if your state is considered no-go or it's considered a go state. All right, so what are our admissions requirements? So for the RN to DNP program, you do need your nursing license. If you are currently in a nursing program at a community college, then you can't apply yet. You need to graduate and have your nursing license passed before you graduate. Again, this is for my high achieving associate's degree student, and this is a competitive admission process. There's only so many seats in this track. So the higher your GPA and the better your essay, the more likely you are to get in. Now, you do have to have a minimum of a 3.5 in your last 60 credits. So whatever your last 60 credits are, that's what your minimum. If your ADN or associate's degree was less than 60 credits, let's say it's 58 credits, you only have 58 credits, then we'll look at 58 credits. But if your ADN was 58 credits and you took other classes before, then we're still looking at the last 60. So whatever your last 60 credits were, or whatever credits you do have, we are going to be looking at those, and it does need to be a 3.5 GPA or better to do this program. Now, you have to have a B or better in those undergraduate prerequisite classes we talked about on that previous slide. And we're now going to talk about the additional requirements for the acute care and the neonatal track. So if you are not interested in acute care or neonatal, this is not applicable to you. These requirements are applicable to all of our nurse practitioner programs. So every one of the tracks require this, including acute care and neonatal, but neonatal and acute care have additional requirements above and beyond this track. So now we're going to talk about what is required for the acute care track. So if you are interested in acute care, you do need to have 1 year full-time work experience as a registered nurse in a critical care unit. Then we list out what we consider critical care units and the experiences we want you to have. If you feel like you have had these experiences but don't see your unit listed, you're welcome to email Julie, or her email is at the bottom of this email, and let her know your experiences and ask if that would count as 1 year experience in a critical care unit, and she'll let you know. You also need to have ACLS and BLS certification. So those two certifications need to be done before you apply. Again, you need to have this experience done before you apply. And then finally, 2 of the clinical courses must be completed in the state of Michigan. So again, even if you're at a go state, you have to, for this track, do the clinicals in our 861 and 865. Now, our neonatal nurse practitioner, so that was acute care, this is neonatal. So neonatal nurse practitioner does require that you have at least 2 years of recent full-time experience as a registered nurse in a level 3 or 4 neonatal intensive care unit. You must submit a letter verifying that experience and that it meets the minimum requirements. If you have questions about that experience and you want to be like, hey, does this count? You're welcome to, again, email Julie and make sure your experiences does count for this neonatal track. Okay, so now let's talk about the application deadlines. There are specific application deadlines to start into the prerequisite classwork, the undergraduate classwork. So fall start early view is done on April 1st. So if you get everything turned in, we're going to talk about on the next slide what needs to be turned in. Get it all turned in by April 1st. You'll get reviewed and will be let know if you are able to start in the fall semester. Otherwise, the final deadline is August 1st. Now there's a little asterisk next to that, and that's because you can still apply all the way till August 1st for a fall start into the prerequisite classes, but you would not be able to be admitted because the committee doesn't meet over the summer. They don't come back until mid-August. You won't probably get your acceptance letter until after the first 7 weeks of fall starts. So you can still start into fall prerequisite classes, but you won't be able to start into them until October. If you want to start into the first 7-week fall classes that start in August, at the end of August, and then you want to get everything turned in by April 1st. Winter deadline is November 1st, and that's a January start, and summer deadline is April 1st, and that is a May start into those prerequisite classes. So here's our application. We do not accept CAS. So keep that in mind. We do not accept the CAS application. There is a $55 application fee, but if you attended one of the webinars, you'll get a waiver code on that webinar. This is information about our waiver code if you attended the webinar. So if you have additional questions about whether or not you can use your waiver code, this is the Q&A page for that. And then these are your steps to application. So one of the things to keep in mind is that all of these things need to be turned in by that deadline. So you need to fill out our application and then turn all of these things in by the deadline. And then once you're admitted, you're going to book an appointment with us. We offer virtual appointments Monday through Friday, even with extended time slots from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And then if you like face-to-face, you're welcome to meet us in Flint or Lansing. This is our tuition. The tuition is at an undergraduate rate for your prerequisites. It's at the RN to BSN tuition rate, which is currently $594.25 per credit hour for in-state. Once you start into the MSN and DNP curriculum, then it will be $861.25 currently, but again, tuition changes each fall. So if you take those full 2 years, it will have gone up by then. We do offer a few different scholarships and a faculty loan forgiveness program. And if you want more information, you can click those links within the slideshow presentation. This is your prerequisite advisors. Again, I'm Brooke. You'll see Jennifer and Tiffany. If you have questions about the application, though, did you get my letters of reference, my goal statement, whatever it is, where am I in the process? You want to reach out to grad programs. We do not have access to that. So we only have access to your information after you're admitted. So make sure that you reach out to graduate programs if you have additional questions or concerns. Okay, that's the end of our presentation. We want to thank you today for attending and have a great day.